The Big Ten was already a great conference, but it just got a lot better with the addition of 4 new teams as Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA are all set to join the conference this season. The Big Ten becoming one of the first super conferences we've ever seen. 18 teams in the conference this fall. And today, guys, we're here to rank the 4 newcomers. Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA. We're here to discuss and rank who the best of the 4 new teams is and will be, and who the worst team is and will be heading into this next season. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com. We're going to have tons of exclusive content over there for you all throughout this offseason, all throughout the season, including our expert picks that have beat out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years. So go check that out. Check out our mailing address to send us some of your team's gear. We've got some USC gear. We've got our Washington pennant back here. We do have a UCLA pennant that's not seen right now. We have that. No Oregon gear. A little bit of Wisconsin Rutgers gear. So we've got a little bit of Big Ten gear. But whatever your team may be, send it to our mailing address so we can represent your team in every single Gridiron Expert video as we expand our GE Nation from coast to coast. And we do want you to become a part of our GE Nation. So let's take a look at these 4 teams. Not necessarily a huge deep dive. We're not predicting these teams today. That's coming here in just a little over a month. We're going to have prediction season beginning here on our channel. But we're going to rank, starting with number 1 all the way to number 4, the 4 new teams in the Big Ten Conference. And coming in at number 1, it's no surprise, it's the Oregon Ducks. There is a large gap between Oregon and the other 3 teams. And you can't dispute that. You can't argue that. Oregon, in their first year in the Big Ten, is going to be not just a Big Ten title contender, but a college football playoff contender, a national title contender. We broke down Oregon a few days ago. The possibility that this team could maybe even go undefeated. They have Dylan Gabriel coming in at quarterback, transferring in from Oklahoma. Jordan James back at running back. Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart at wide receiver. Jabbar Muhammad transferring in to the secondary from Washington. Kobe Savage transferring in from Kansas State at safety. I mean, every position group at Oregon is pretty much elite. Dan Lanning, an elite coach. And the Ducks host Ohio State, their biggest game of the year. They host Washington, revenge game after Oregon fell to the Huskies twice last year, ended up keeping them out of the college football playoff. Their toughest road games are on the road at Michigan and on the road at Wisconsin. Michigan, obviously not going to be the same team we saw last year. Wisconsin still kind of learning, going through some growing pains under Luke Fickell. This is a very good chance that Oregon could go 11-1, 10-2 at worst, maybe even undefeated. Very good chance. This is a national title team. They are national title contenders, no doubt about it. And they are the best of the 4 new teams coming into the conference. And they are one of the best teams in the Big Ten as a whole. Out of all the 18 teams, Oregon is up there, and I think it's really 1A and 1B with Ohio State and Oregon heading in to 2024. The argument with the newcomers is who's number 2? Is it USC? Is it UCLA? Is it Washington? Who's the second best out of these 4 new teams coming over from the Pac-12? In our eyes, we believe the second best is USC. Give me the Trojans. Lincoln Riley has the offense and the mind to come in here and win some games. Big Ten, you hear it. It's boring. It's slow. It's all about defense. Well, we know USC doesn't have any sort of defense. We know that. But they've got the offense that's really going to challenge these defenses and maybe be something that these Big Ten teams haven't really seen before or don't see very often. You know, the Trojans went just 8-5 last year, a pretty disappointing season for them. And now you come into this year and you go 8-5, disappointing year, no Caleb Williams. What are they going to do? Miller Moss looks like the quarterback of the future out in L.A. 372 yards, 6 touchdowns against Louisville in that bowl game. He looked like a seasoned veteran in that game. They also added UNLV transfer Jaden Mayava, who threw for over 3,000 yards and 17 touchdowns last year, earned Mountain West Conference Freshman of the Year honors. They also added a new defensive coordinator in D'Anton Lynn. Alex Grinch no longer tied to Lincoln Riley, no longer tied to USC. Horrendous defense the last couple of years. D'Anton Lynn comes in after leading UCLA to the 10th ranked defense in the country last year and the top defense in the Pac-12 last year. So a great pickup by Lincoln Riley. Hopefully going to have some immediate success on the defensive side of the ball. The Trojans do have a tougher schedule than some of the other teams maybe that we're going to discuss. They open the season in Las Vegas against LSU. They have to go to Michigan, to Washington, to UCLA, and they get to host Penn State and Notre Dame, both teams that very well could be top 10 teams. So this might not be a team that can go to the college football playoff this year. It might not be a team that challenges for a Big Ten title this year, but this is a team that could very well be favored in 7 or 8 games this season, and to me, that would be a pretty solid year. I know USC wants to contend for New Year's Six bowl games, wants to contend for championships. They might be a year away from that entering this new conference, but hey, a 7, 8, maybe even 9-win season is a pretty solid debut in the Big Ten. Coming at number 3, 3 and 4 between UCLA and Washington. To me, it's pretty close. It's not a very large gap. But coming at number 3, we've got UCLA. Give me the Bruins. Just like USC, 8 and 5 last year, but a lot of changes within this program. Chip Kelly now gone to Ohio State, but not as the head coach. They hire, though, Deshaun Foster, the former running backs coach at UCLA from 2017 to 2023. They promote from within. He's the new head man of the Bruins. This is a team that I think offensively is going to be pretty good. I really do. Ethan Garber's back in at quarterback, a veteran QB there. Great offensive coordinator hired Eric Bieniemy, the guy that won a couple Super Bowls with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. It's amazing to me that we're not talking nearly enough about Eric Bieniemy and this hire from UCLA and what he might be able to do at the college ranks. This is a big, big, big hire by the Bruins. So the offense, I don't think is going to be the issue at all. The defense, I think, is going to be the biggest test. And like we just mentioned, this is a UCLA defense that was 10th in the country last year, but now loses, obviously, their defensive coordinator, tons of defensive talent from that side of the ball. So the offense could pick up the slack. What can the defense do? If it can stay within the top 40 in the country, this could be maybe an underdog, sneaky team in the Big Ten, maybe on the national stage. But the Bruins do have to go to LSU. So USC and UCLA both drawing the Tigers. USC almost getting a home game in Las Vegas. UCLA, though, having to travel all the way to Death Valley. They get to host Oregon. They have to go to Penn State. LSU, Oregon, Penn State, those are 3 consecutive games, by the way. Very brutal stretch there. Long road trip to Rutgers, road trip to Nebraska. They host Iowa. They go to Washington. This is a team that could be, we're not predicting games here, they could be 3 and 4 entering November, and they're going to have to find a way to win 3 games in the month of November just to go bowling. And to me, bowling in their first year in the Big Ten would be viewed as a success. First year in the Big Ten, first year head coach, get to the postseason, that's a win. And then finally, guys, out of these new 4 teams, we've got Washington as the worst of the 4. Not the worst in the Big Ten, but the worst of the 4 new teams. And it kind of sounds crazy to say, hey, the national runner-up last year is the worst of the new teams coming to this conference. But if you follow college football, you know this is not going to be the same Washington team. Just like Michigan is going to be nowhere near the same Michigan team that won the national championship over Washington last year. Jed Fish comes in as the new head coach after Kalen DeBoer left Washington to go to Alabama. Fish went 16-21 in 3 years at Arizona. 10 of those 16 wins came last year with the Wildcats in that 10-win season. I mean, it was one really, really good year. I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but it was one really big year. After that, they hadn't really done too much. Washington now loses tons on both sides of the ball. You lose practically your entire wide receiver core. You lose your star quarterback in Michael Penix. You lose tons on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, it's a completely revamped team. Yes, Will Rogers is in at quarterback, the veteran from Mississippi State. So the offense might not be as bad as people think. Rogers set tons of school records at Mississippi State, tons of SEC records. I think he's going to do very fine in Seattle. But this is a team that has to build a lot of chemistry. This is a team that still has to get significantly better on the defensive side of the ball after ranking 96 in total defense last year. And now they've got a schedule that includes a long road trip to Rutgers. Rutgers is not going to be a slouch this year at all. They get a rematch against Michigan. They got to go to Iowa, to Penn State, to Oregon, still play USC. Again, I think a bowl game for Washington would be considered a massive success in their first year in the Big Ten. But even then, that could be pushing it. With the lack of chemistry, with all the questions on both sides of the ball, the new coaches, the new schemes, everything that's surrounding this Huskies program, they might flirt with just a 500 record, which again, sounds crazy, but when you really break it down, is kind of the reality that Husky fans are facing. So there you go, guys. The 4 new teams in the Big Ten. We've got Oregon 1, USC 2, UCLA 3, and Washington 4. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Who's going to do better than you expect? Who's going to do worse than you expect? We're going to have game-by-game predictions for all of these teams coming your way very, very soon. But leave your comments in the meantime. As always, of course, please continue to like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you didn't miss out on those future videos. Check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks, including our website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.